With the NHL offseason coming to an end, we have a lot of new faces in many new places. And that means there's going to be a lot of big steals of the offseason. We're going to be talking about a few here on this video, as well as one who is probably not going to be as good as he was last season, but is on the same team. And I would say the biggest discrepancy between this season and last season. But before we get into this video, we're on a new system here, so if there are any technical difficulties, bear with us, We're in the learning process as well, same as you guys. So bear with us if anything does happen. But we're going to go on to our first player here, arguably one of the biggest steals of the offseason, pretty recent as well. It's Erik Carlson. Now, obviously, he was included in that very, very big three-way trade heading to Pittsburgh. Last year, 82 games and 101 points. Obviously, we don't think that is going to be happening this year for Erik Carlson. But you can see here on the lines, I probably do expect him to be on the first line opposed to Chris Letang. Obviously, nothing is certain yet. We're not even in the preseason yet, so we don't have an idea of what will be happening. But likely, Erik Carlson will be on that first line. But Noah, before we get into what he might do next season, let's just for another time, we've done it before, check out that video if you haven't. What do you think about the Erik Carlson trade and how it will affect the Pittsburgh Penguins?
It makes them that much better, like you said, 101 points last year. Absolutely crazy year. So I think, he's on his last few legs. I think he's 33 or 34 now. Yeah. They're a little bit aging, but I mean, this is their final window to win a cup with Crosby and Malkin and Letang.
Yeah, it is a very, very big trade. And now I do expect Erik Carlson to get slightly worse. Not saying he's going to be bad by any means, but I don't think he needs to get 101 points on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, we know, like I showed, the defensive lines there. Very good on defense as well. Very big additions on offense. You got Riley Smith, Lars Eller, those two guys have been pretty solid over the past few years, and I think that's only adding to Pittsburgh. They finally realized that they only have a few years left to be competitive, go for another cup with Crosby, Malkin, Letang, those guys. So I think that Erik Carlson will be worse this year point-wise, but I think he will be much more important to his team, the Pittsburgh Penguins. What do you think about that, Noah? Do you agree with that or disagree?
There's no shot he gets 101 points again. I mean, you gotta be realistic a little bit, right? But I do think he'll have very high expectations. You mentioned guys, they brought in guys like Riley Smith, Lars Eller, Alex Nedeljkovic between the pipes. There's a couple other guys which I can't remember, but it just goes to show Erik Carlson doesn't need to put up the 100-point season, the 25 goals. I think if he can put up 65, 75 points while being on the power play one, being like the quarterback on the power play one, I think it'll be better off for Pittsburgh's overall success. So I love the move.
I do as well. Yeah, it's the one we kind of wanted, I would say. Pretty much everybody wanted. You don't want to see Pittsburgh get one more. But he most certainly is not the player he will be, or he was on San Jose, because there obviously is a lot more players who have some skill in Pittsburgh opposed to San Jose, where he was kind of the only guy on the team after Brent Burns left, He has some guys on forwards who've been there forever, but it's a whole different situation now where he is in Pittsburgh. But we're going to go on now to what I would say is the biggest steal of the offseason, which is Tyler Toffoli. Now, I think this move is certainly one that will help out the New Jersey Devils a lot. And, New Jersey is on that brink of nearly making the Stanley Cup final, being deep in the playoffs. They're that team now. They only need a few more moves to be able to get to where they want to be. You can see here with this incredible, I would argue, top 3 forward in the NHL right now. Lions, Tyler Toffoli here in this projection. Obviously, nothing is certain yet. Going on the second line with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. If this does stay what it is, all 4 of these lines are incredibly deep. So I think Tyler Toffoli only adds to this as much as you can, because Tyler Toffoli led the Calgary Flames last year in goals and points. And getting put on this New Jersey team, I think it's absolutely incredible. But Noah, what do you think about Tyler Toffoli heading to the New Jersey Devils, and what do you think he'll do this season for them?
Well, I'm a little bit biased because he was pretty much the big leader on the Habs Cup run there a couple of years ago. But he's a great character, great player. I love this move for the Devils. It's not like their roster is inexperienced, but they do have a couple of guys like the Hughes brothers, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, who they haven't really went deep in the playoffs. And you bring in a guy like Toffoli who's won one Stanley Cup. But even still, you can never discredit, Stanley Cup experience. And I think he just makes the Devils that much better.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said. They do have the experience in the playoffs from the past year, but they have nobody with age who's been in the playoffs that much, like who's been in several different playoff runs with different teams and got that experience from being around the NHL for so long. So I think Tyler Toffoli will be a major impact on this team. Probably not as many points as he did last year, just because of how good this offense and defense is. I think you'll see a very even spread of points throughout the New Jersey roster this year. Go ahead.
Oh, I do want to add, I do think New Jersey might win the Stanley Cup.
It is a certain possibility. They were some people's favorites last year, and I think they only got better. So, I can't see them not being some people's favorites this year, because it obviously is one of the better teams this offseason, and someone who's been better the past few years. But we're going to go on to our third now. Another steal, very underrated steal, but another very big steal of this offseason. Another recent one, pretty much, is Alex Newhook going to the Montreal Canadiens. Now, we know Newhook's been a 16th overall pick for the Colorado Avalanche a few years ago. Been a pretty consistent, second, third line guy. 30 points in 82 games last season. But this is a very important part of what Montreal has been doing recently. They have only had, a few years since that deep Stanley Cup run, and they've gotten rid of pretty much that entire roster. Alex Newhook has been on 2 years in the NHL, 22 years old, and has already won a Stanley Cup. Now, he hasn't had that type of experience, like we said, with Tyler Toffoli, where he's been with multiple different playoff teams, multiple different playoff runs, but a Stanley Cup at 22 years old is definitely a very, very big plus. That don't come very often, a player like that who's been on a team getting a Stanley Cup and then getting moved. So I think it is a very, very good experience for the Montreal Canadiens here on this one. You can see by their lines, he's also here on the second line with Christian Dvorak and Josh Anderson. Now, from my experience, Noah, we'll go into this with you after again, but I really don't know how this Montreal forwards will play out. I don't really have any idea of where they're going to put Newhook at center. Going to put him on the wing. I don't really know yet. We're going to have to see with that. But Noah, what do you think about this whole Alex Newhook getting to Montreal? The experience that he has winning a Stanley Cup at the Colorado Avalanche. Let me know. What do you think?
I think this is textbook Ken Hughes. I mean, if to be completely honest, they went out and got Kirby Dach at not last year's draft, the year before. A guy, struggling. We needed to change the scenery, and I think that's no different with Newhook. He's a young guy, a lot of upside. Like you said, he's only 22, has a Stanley Cup under his belt. I think it makes so much sense for the Habs to go out and get him. They have a kind of young wave coming through, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Juraj Slafkovsky, expecting a big year out of him. Kirby Dach, like I just mentioned. They just drafted David Reinbacher. So I think you're going to see Montreal come up, and I think in the next probably 3 to 4 years, they're going to be pretty elite with Newhook.
Yeah, you're right in the same situation as Kirby Dach. I think Colorado would have liked to keep him if they could, but they just have such a busy forward core that they don't really need the young guys right now if they're still going for deep playoff runs. They still have McKinnon, Rantanen. Landeskog probably won't be. I'm not sure if that's certain if he won't be in next year at all, but they do have a very, very busy offense, so it will be likely that this trade will be a big win for Montreal, because Alex Newhook's very good, and that experience will be very crucial to what Montreal has going on. But we're going to go on to our last player here now, who is not on a new team, but will have a very, very big discrepancy in what they did last season and this season, in my opinion. I think it's an opinion of a lot of people as well, and that's Linus Ullmark. We didn't expect how good he was going to be last year on Boston compared to what he is, to actually what he was. But we know how good Boston was in the regular season. Obviously, the best regular season team of all time. So I think that this next upcoming season, with Bergeron, Krejci retiring, a lot of people leaving, Orlov, Tyler Bertuzzi, guys they acquired at the traded line, Taylor Hall, it's going to be a very, very, very big discrepancy, I think, from what we've seen last year. Obviously, these stats, some of the best of all time for a goalie. You can't beat 46-1, a 189 goals against, a 938 save percentage with 2 shutouts. Those stats are incredible. You can't beat that. But it's certainly not going to be anywhere close to that next season, I don't believe. And I think that could lead to an opportunity of Linus Ullmark getting a trade from the Boston Bruins. But we'll talk about that after. But Noah, what do you think about Linus Ullmark going into next season?
Well, I mean, they're absolute video game numbers, right? Like you can't expect those numbers out of him. But and I do think, and I know Bruins fans are probably going to say we sound like a broken record, but I do think a lot of his success was because of Bergeron and Krejci. And now that they're gone, they're retired, they're pretty much, or they're not pretty much, they are done. I think you're going to see his numbers drop off significantly. And you also, like you said, they lost guys like Orlov, Bertuzzi, they lost Taylor Hall. I think I think Ullmark's going to drop off significantly. I don't think that's not to say he's a bad goalie. That's not to say he won't win the Vezina again, but he very well may. But I don't think he's going to have, like you said, 46 wins or something and a 1.9 goals against. I can't remember what the exact numbers are, but they're video game numbers. Point being.
Yeah, you're right. I think that it's going to be a very big drop off, but that might lead to a few teams who are on the search for a goalie, who are close to the playoffs, looking for a guy like Linus Ullmark if the Boston Bruins don't end up being as good as they are. Because obviously you have Jeremy Swayman capable of being a starting goalie, and we know how good Linus Ullmark has been with the team in front of him. So, some teams might want to go out and try to get a guy like Linus Ullmark to be able to put in front of their team to go on a deep playoff run. So we'll have to see what happens with that, because I think that is quite a strong possibility that this might happen going into this next season, possibly the trade deadline, going to the playoffs. We don't know where teams are really going to be in the standings yet. There's nothing really telltale so far from what we've seen, except from teams like New Jersey. The Toronto Maple Leafs might be there high in the standings. Those ones are kind of what we know so far. But everybody else, we don't really know, so we're going to have to see what happens with Linus Ullmark going into next season. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. But that's all we got for this video. If you liked it, make sure to give it a like, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going to be posting a lot more content now that we got everything sorted out. Won't be taking too many breaks now. We'll be back on it. But hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day.